It's now my great pleasure to invite Secretary-General Antonio Guterres to address us. Please welcome the Secretary-General.
Dear friends, it's great to be here with all of you. In the day we celebrate 100 years of Nelson Mandela with a summit in the United Nations. He represents indeed the value of peace. Now, I am going to apologize. I'm going to do the most unpolite thing one can do, which is to speak and to leave. We learn much more listening than speaking, and I would love to be here and to listen to all of you. But unfortunately, those that run my life have scheduled me for 44 events and 128 bilateral meetings. And so it's absolutely impossible to do what I would really like to do, and that would be to be here with all of you and to listen to the very important contributions I'm sure you'll be giving. Now, it is common to say that peace, development and human rights are three faces of the same reality. There is no peace without development, there is no development without peace, there is no peace and development without human rights. It was Kofi Annan that said it in a very clear way. And what for me is more important in the Global Compact is the fact that the Global Compact is based on a set of values. These are companies that, of course, will operate in their own areas, that will do what they have to do as companies, looking for the profits that are absolutely legitimate, but they subscribe a number of central values. Values that have to do exactly with the respect of human rights in all dimensions, the respect of sustainability in whatever they do, the respect of concerns related to gender. Companies create jobs. Jobs for use is probably the most important tool we have today in the prevention of conflict. And so if companies do their job properly, if companies do their job in the respect for these values and create richness and wealth and help to have communities with cohesion by the way they are integrated in the communities where they operate, companies are indeed contributing decisively for peace. And this is what matters in the Global Compact, is that you are committed to values, and those values are exactly what makes your companies not only profitable, effective companies to the economy, but companies that contribute to the prevention and sustaining peace that correspond to the two objectives that we have now central in our concerns in the United Nations. And it is clear that the cohesion of societies. It is clear that the role of women and young people. It is clear that adequate levels of employment. It is clear that an adequate exploitation of resources are things that help prevent conflict in societies, avoiding tensions that lead to conflict. And when conflict ends and peace needs to be sustained, help to sustain that peace and help make the transitions from conflict into peace as transitions that are successful, as we have seen in many parts of the world. And so I strongly believe that your contribution to the agenda of prevention and sustaining peace, a central agenda in our approach to peace, is today very important. But allow me to make two very brief observations. We are also pursuing one objective, which is to have a fair globalization. And for that, the Sustainable Development Goals, the Agenda 2030, is our central instrument. But in the Agenda 2030, we are not moving fast enough. We have fixed with all heads of state and government around the table, as now in the General Assembly, we have fixed a number of very important targets. But when one looks at what is happening in the global economy, we are moving more or less in the right direction in the majority of them, but too slow. And Sustainable Development Goals are complex to understand. And if they are today well accepted by the, I would say, diplomatic community, by governments that tend to introduce them in national plans, by the elite of the business community around the world, the truth is that they have not yet trickled down into the society, into most of the millions of companies that operate around the world. And so you have a very important role, which is to mobilize civil society, to mobilize business community, and to mobilize all the other actors that are relevant in our countries in order to make sure that the Sustainable Development Goals become embedded in what we do. That we have benchmarks to measure what is our impact in those goals. And one thing I would like to say to end, I am deeply concerned with the fact that climate change is running faster than we are. And I do believe that climate change is also a terrible factor in relation to the creation of conditions for conflict, independently of the other devastating impacts it has on societies. I think we need to raise the alarm. Not only things are getting worse than expected, what we are witnessing in the world is more dramatic than the worst forecasts that scientists have made a few years ago, but unfortunately governments are losing momentum. They are losing the sense of urgency. It's not clearly as a stronger priority as it should be in most parts of the world. And so I strongly believe the business community can be the driving force, together with the civil society, to make sure that everybody understands that to meet the goals defined in the Paris Agreement is essential, and that not only we need to be able to correspond to the commitments made, but we need to have an enhanced ambition and to make stronger commitments. That is why I'm convening a summit for 2019 to make sure that countries in 2020 are able to enhance their commitments to make sure that global climate change is controlled. If things go on as they are going today, in a very limited number of years, we will make it irreversible not to be able to reach the end of the century with an increase of temperature below 2%. And that would be devastating. That will have catastrophic consequences for everybody, including for the businesses around the world. And we count on the private sector to be a driving force to push governments to assume their responsibilities in this very important aspect of our commitments. So, development, peace, human rights, all these are areas that I believe a vibrant business community based on the values of the Global Compact can be a very important tool to make sure that we succeed. Thank you very much to all of you.